Please welcome CHS Board Chair Dan Scher.
Well, I call this meeting back to order, and good morning. I hope everyone had an enjoyable evening. It was certainly nice to socialize with all of you last night in the event. Today, you're going to hear financial and business updates from CHS leaders, and we'll answer your questions during our member interaction session. You'll have several ways to ask questions during that session. You can write your questions on a card, and you can pass it to the usher. You can step to the microphone and wait to be acknowledged by the chair. You can text or email a question as shown on the screen, or you can enter a question into the CHS Annual Meeting app. If your question or one like it isn't answered today, and you have provided your name and contact information, a leadership team will respond to you following the annual meeting. We're going to share highlights from this meeting on social media, so you can join us on that conversation on Twitter or Facebook. Our cooperative system, it benefits from long-standing relationships with partners across the U.S. and across the world. We'd like to recognize the groups who help us achieve our purpose every day. Many of them are with us today in person or online. We are especially thankful for our cooperative partners, our industry partners, including our co-op organizations, trade organizations, and our universities. Our many insurers, our investors, and our banking partners, and our suppliers and other business partners. There are too many to list, but we'd like to thank all of you for your strong support. We're also pleased to have a number of CHS directors, former directors, and management team with us today. We want to recognize and celebrate your dedication to the cooperative system. Would those former leaders and their spouses please stand? I'd also like to take a special time to recognize Ed Malish for his many years of service. Last year, Ed retired from the board, was unable to join in person. We want to thank Ed and Barb. And please, if you would stand again, and we thank you for your many years of service. Thank you all for being with us today and your continued commitment to CHS and the cooperative system.
Please welcome Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer, Olivia Nelligan.
Good day, CHS owners and business partners. I am delighted to be with you all here today in person to share our progress. It's been great to meet many of you in person over the last few days and during the summer at our owners' forums. If we haven't yet met, I look forward to connecting and learning about your cooperatives and farming operations. I am pleased to share with you the Fiscal 2021 financial report this morning. CHS had a strong year financially, especially in the second half of the fiscal year. We have been able to harness the power of our enterprise and the passion of our people in this strong ag economy to serve our customers throughout the globe and to deliver value for our local cooperative and farmer owners. We saw continued headwinds and uncertainty in our energy business and felt some weather impacts on our ag segment, including Hurricane Ida on the Gulf. However, the diversification and resiliency of our operations and the commitment of all of you, our owners, helped drive increased fiscal 2021 revenue and significantly improved bottom line performance this past year. Before I go into detail, I will preface my remarks with the customary safe harbor language. Some of the business and financial topics we discuss today may contain forward-looking statements. Future results may differ from those implied by today's comments. These differences may exist because of risks and uncertainties in our business, including those we describe in our most recent annual report, which is on file with the SEC. I'd like to start by highlighting our overall business strategy. At CHS, we strive to create experiences that empower our customers to make CHS their first choice. We expand market access to add value for our owners, and we transform and evolve our core businesses by capitalizing on changing market dynamics. To execute on these strategies, we have 5 key enablers: agile and sustainable technology platforms, robust and efficient supply chains, high-performing, diverse and passionate teams, operational excellence, and a strong balance sheet. Total revenue in fiscal 2021 was $38.4 billion, which was 35% higher than the previous year and our highest revenue since 2014. The revenue increase was primarily driven by robust global demand and rising commodity prices in our Ag segment. Net income for fiscal 2021 was $554 million, a 31% increase over last year. Despite a disappointing first half, we were able to deliver this strong full-year result through the wholehearted commitment of our employees, strong customer demand and engagement, support from all of you, our owners, and a disciplined approach to taking cost out of the business. Additionally, through our focused attention on cash flow optimization, we reduced our cash conversion cycle by 6 days, which resulted in approximately $8 million less interest cost based on freeing up working capital. We will now review the segments that make up our earnings: energy, ag, nitrogen production, foods, and our corporate and other category. Starting with energy, which includes 4 businesses: refined fuels, propane, lubricants, and transportation. As we look at the year-over-year comparison, just a reminder that the first 6 months of 2020 were before the pandemic impacted our markets. In 2021, demand destruction impacts from the pandemic lingered throughout the entire year, although we saw continued recovery in our energy segment as the year progressed. Though revenues increased year over year, this segment had a pre-tax loss of $10.6 million, a $235.9 million decrease in pre-tax income versus the prior year. We were encouraged that overall our refined fuels volumes held up well in comparison with the industry. While refining margins improved over the year as demand shocks from the COVID-19 pandemic began to subside, the resulting margin improvements were negatively impacted by a number of factors: exceptionally high costs for renewable energy credits, or RINs, less favorable pricing on heavy Canadian crude oil processed by our refineries, resulting in lower earnings, reduced propane volumes resulting from warmer and drier weather conditions during fiscal 2021 also contributed to a decrease in earnings. Given the significant headwinds our energy segment has faced in the past year and a half, we're pleased with the progress we've made, particularly in the second half of fiscal 2021, and we will look to build on that positive momentum in fiscal 2022. Now let's look at our Ag segment. This reporting segment includes our wholesale agronomy business, global grain and processing, and country operations. In fiscal 2021, Ag revenues increased by 40% to $32 billion, and the Ag segment delivered pre-tax earnings of $298 million, a $244 million increase from the prior year. We saw favorable weather conditions for the fall harvest and spring planting seasons. We also saw a full year of improved trade relations between the United States and foreign trade partners, which resulted in strong global demand for grains and oilseeds and an increase in commodity prices. Improved agronomy, retail, and processing margins were partially offset by lower grain and oilseed margins, including the impact of significant mark-to-market losses that are expected to reverse over time. We had higher equity income from our joint venture investment in Temco, our grain export operations in the Pacific Northwest. While market dynamics were in our favor, I want to underscore the hard work we have been doing to gain efficiencies across our supply chain that led to higher volumes and improved segment earnings by over 450% over the prior year. Nitrogen production represents our investment in CF Nitrogen. Pre-tax income of 121 million was up 69.2 million. This increase was primarily as a result of increased sales prices of urea and urea ammonium nitrate, or UAN, which are the focus of our commercial relationship with and equity distributions from CF Nitrogen. These higher prices were partially offset by increased natural gas costs. Our separately reported foods segment this year consists of our equity investment in Ventura Foods and associated expenses. Ventura Foods is a 50-50 joint venture between CHS and Mitsui and is a producer of edible oil-based branded and private label food products. CHS' share of Ventura's pre-tax earnings contributed 67.9 million, a 43.7 million year-over-year increase. This was a result of favorable market conditions for edible oils and a recovery of sales volumes in fiscal 2021 compared with the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic in fiscal 2020. Lastly, our corporate and other category includes our corporate function costs, CHS Hedging, our full-service brokerage business, CHS Capital, which provides financing to members, and it also includes our joint venture investment in Ardent Mills, a leading wheat milling and ingredients supplier. Corporate and other pre-tax earnings increased to 38.9 million, primarily due to increased equity income from Ardent Mills. We had a tax benefit of 38.2 million, which was 1.5 million better than the prior year. Our tax calculation is based on the mix of full-year earnings, equity management decisions, careful tax planning, and compliance with our cooperative tax obligations. In summary, CHS delivered net income of 554 million in fiscal 2021, which was a 31% increase year over year. We are proud of this performance on behalf of our owners and how we served our customers around the world and created more connections to empower agriculture. Now let's talk about equity management. A key tenet to our cooperative system is patronage and equity. I want to start with a look back to 2021 cash returns to owners and reiterate our approach and how the year played out. At the annual meeting a year ago, we announced CHS would return 63 million in cash to owners, 30 million in cash patronage and 33 million in equity redemptions. This decision was based on circumstances at the time. We were less than a year into the COVID-19 pandemic. Energy demand was decimated. Margins were poor, and there was a tremendous amount of uncertainty. We also assured members that our board of directors would evaluate opportunities to return more cash to owners later in the year if earnings improved. As the year unfolded with stronger performance than originally anticipated, an additional 50 million in equity redemptions was announced after third quarter. Total fiscal 2021 cash to owners was 109 million, of which equity redemptions was 79 million. Moving to 2022, the board has designated 10% of this year's patronage-based earnings to the unallocated reserve. This year, CHS will issue patronage of 230 million in non-qualified equity certificates and the remainder in cash. During 2022, CHS intends to return 150 million to owners, with 50 million in cash patronage and 100 million in equity redemptions. Of the 100 million in equity redemptions, 70 million will be distributed to member cooperatives, and 30 million is intended to be distributed to individual owners. The 70 million of member cooperative redemptions will be qualified equity certificates, starting with the oldest equity first, and payments will be made in the spring. The 30 million will be used to fulfill individual owner requests from those age 70 and above, and for estates. In addition, CHS has distributed 20 million in DPAD tax deductions to owners. Next, we will highlight a few wholesale patronage rates, and what you see on the screen is both cash patronage and total patronage. Over the last 10 years, CHS has returned in excess of 2.7 billion cash to owners in cash patronage and equity redemptions. As always, in making equity management and patronage decisions, the board considers what is in the best interest of CHS and its members, the commitment to maintaining a strong balance sheet, and the outlook for the year ahead based on market dynamics. A strong balance sheet allows CHS to withstand periods of severe market volatility and unprecedented industry challenges, such as we have seen this past 2 years. It also affords us the opportunity to invest capital for future growth and efficiency, including supply chain investments, acquisitions, and technology solutions that collectively benefit our member owners. As Chairman Scher mentioned in his speech yesterday, the board and management are currently assessing equity management considerations as we look at our capital structure and balance sheet strength for the future. And we will be back in front of you on this matter over the coming year. As we look ahead to fiscal 2022, we are planning for the opportunities and the challenges of our global economy, with significant supply chain and inflationary impacts and the associated volatility that may bring. However, we are confident in our ability to rise to these challenges and others that may come, and we are excited about our future and collective success with our owners. We remain committed to financial excellence, continuous improvement, and balance sheet strength, including cash flow optimization. We will also continue to invest in technology and in advancing our CHS operating model, which will make it easier for you to do business with us. In closing, I would like to reiterate that CHS has stayed financially strong and has navigated the circumstances we have faced, just as we have done throughout our 92-year history. With our focus on a strong balance sheet and your support, we are positioned for long-term growth. We have plans in motion to tap into our full potential by harnessing the power of CHS and the cooperative system to deliver value for you for decades to come. A sincere thank you for your business and for your continued commitment. which empowers us to constantly strive for better on your behalf. I look forward to our collective future together and shared success.
I'm Ron Beatty, and I've worked at CHS over the last decade. I currently lead the refined fuels teams responsible for pricing and economics. Over the past 4 years, our teams have been executing our business unit strategy by creating data-driven process improvements that allow our teams and supply chains to be connected through digital tools. In building these programs, our focus has been on anticipation, automation, and collaboration. We're working on methods to better anticipate our customers' future needs and simulating the supply chain to find that sweet spot to best meet those needs. We're working to automate. Instead of having our employees spend precious time and attention on simply finding and entering data, we're giving them tools to automate their processes. They're shifting administration time to more enriching parts of their day, analyzing the information to better understand the dynamics of the supply chain, to make better decisions, and to bring valuable insights to our internal teams and our customers and our owners. Finally, by using visualization tools, our team is better able to collaborate. They're speaking the same language, sharing opportunities and issues with common sources of information. We're working in these tools across our areas of expertise, and we're eliminating waste by collaborating in new and efficient ways. The end goal is to plan our supply so fuel is where our customers need it, when our customers need it.
Well, at this time, we will move into the business portion of our meeting. This will be followed immediately by our member interaction session, and then the management report from President and CEO Jay Debertin. When you registered, you received a copy of the minutes of the annual meeting of December 3rd, 2020. Since copies were distributed, it is not necessary to read those minutes. Are there any corrections, additions, deletions to the minutes of the 2020 annual meeting? If not, I call for a motion to approve these minutes as distributed. I have a motion? Thank you. Do I have a second? I have a second. Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the 2020 CHS Annual Meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? No. The 2020 annual meeting minutes are approved as distributed. Before we proceed with the report from the Resolutions Committee, I'd like to call on Ben Hesse, Chair of the Credentials Committee, for that report.
The Credentials Committee has unanimously adopted the following report as of 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, December 2nd, 2021, and hereby unanimously recommends its acceptance and adoption by this convention. The committee has registered 169 delegates representing 105 cooperative associations and patrons associations and has registered 1 individual member. The committee has also accepted electronic ballots from 111 cooperative associations and patrons associations and 10 individual members. There are, therefore, a total of 169 on-site delegates, 1 on-site individual member, and 121 electronic ballots for the business of this annual meeting. Mr. Chairman, the detailed schedule of registration is attached and made part of this report.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it. Well, thank you, Ben. Can I have a motion to approve the report? I have a motion. Can I have a second? I have a second. Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the Credentials Committee report. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? No. The report of the Credentials Committee is approved as read. Let's express our appreciation to this committee, who may be called upon later for any written ballot voting. Committee members, thank you for all of your efforts. Our next order of business is the report from the Resolutions Committee. For this portion of your meeting, First Vice Chair C.J. Blue will preside.
By investing in an integrated agronomy supply chain, CHS empowers our owners with best-in-class agronomy solutions. With a balance of domestic manufacturing and global sourcing relationships, CHS provides a reliable supply of crop nutrients. Growth through investments in crop protection helps connect farmers and co-ops with the products they need. Innovative solutions focused on increasing yields and sustainable growing practices help our owners sustainably and profitably produce healthy, marketable crops. A dependable, efficient supply chain is critical to the success of our owners and customers. That's why we're using the latest technology and process innovation to grow our business. Our extensive infrastructure, powered by technology, helps keep our agronomy supply chain moving to provide inputs for farmers. From reliable infrastructure and an experienced team to innovative products, technology, and services, CHS is invested in agronomy to better serve farmers and cooperatives.
Good morning. Members of the Resolutions Committee, chaired by Jeff Lushin and Secretary Stacy Webster, have joined me on stage to provide their report. Brian Melendez of Barnes Thornburg Law Firm is also joining me on stage. First, I'd like to ask the committee members to introduce themselves.
My name is Darrell Marks. I am out of Region 2, Belgrade, Montana. I represent my local co-op, Rocky Mountain Supply. We have a small cow-calf operation.
Hi, my name is Melissa Giesecke, and I'm representing Region 1. I'm from Nicollet, Minnesota, here for UFC Co-op in Winthrop. And my husband Robbie and I farm in Nicollet, Minnesota with his family. We raise corn, soybeans, barley, and we have a cow-calf operation. And we also are raising 2 young daughters.
Good morning. My name is Trent Shervin, and I'm representing Region 3, North Dakota. I also serve as a director on CHS Sun Prairie. I farm with my father southwest of Minot, small grain and oilseeds farm. I appreciate the opportunity to serve on this committee.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Lushin. I live at Hildreth, Nebraska. I am a member and board member of Corporate Producers Incorporated out of Hastings, Nebraska. My farming operation includes mainly irrigated cropland, raise corn, soybeans, popcorn, seed corn. Also have a cow-calf operation with a brother and a nephew. My wife and I have 3 grown children and 8 grandkids.
Good morning. I'm Stacy Webster of Boone, Iowa, and I represent Region 7. I'm the CFO at Key Cooperative, and I have a farming operation with my brother and my father. We raise corn, soybeans, cattle, and hogs, and we're also members of River Valley Cooperative.
Good morning. My name is Jim Bay from Edwell, Washington, just outside of Spokane, representing Region 6. My wife and I have a dry land, wheat, barley, canola operation. I also sit on the board for Highline Grain Growers out of Waterville, Washington.
Good morning. I'm Dale Reese from Watertown, South Dakota, representing Region 4, Sioux Valley Co-op. I farm with my brother. We have a cow-calf operation, feedlot, and we raise corn, beans, rye, oats, and alfalfa.
Morning, I'm Tony Lane. I represent Region 5. I'm from Elma Center, Wisconsin. I'm a board member to Provision Partners. My farming operation consists of corn and soybeans and custom planting and harvesting.
Thank you. The procedure we'll use to vote on resolutions will be by voice vote. If there is significant opposition, we'll move to a written ballot. In the case that we have to do that, and to help us collect ballots and process ballots more quickly, delegates should be seated in the designated section of the auditorium at this time. These seats have blue seat covers. If you are a delegate and are not in one of those seats right now, please move there as quickly as possible. Moving on with consideration of resolutions, Rule Number 8, governing annual and special meetings of members of CHS, reads in part as follows. Resolutions may also be presented from the floor of the meeting. Any such resolution so presented shall require the affirmative vote of 2/3 of the total number of votes held by the delegates and individual members present and voting to be adopted. Resolutions from the floor must be provided in writing to the Resolutions Committee or Chair prior to the session to ensure clarity and format of the resolution or amendment. Since no resolutions have been presented to either the Resolutions Committee or to the Chair prior to today's session, no resolutions will be accepted from the floor. I'll now call on Chair Jeff Lushin for the Resolutions Committee report. You have the complete text of all resolutions in the handout you received in your caucus this morning. If you need a handout, please alert an usher.
Thank you. We'll go through the sections individually. Under Section 1, Grain and Foods, the committee is proposing under the adopted policy that we would include broadband internet access and cell phone coverage. Under the resolution supporting free and fair trade, we basically just clean up some language. CHS strongly supported. Different ratification of the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, and then we struck some of the wording after that. We also recommend the resolution regarding anti-terrorism measures. We move it to Section 3 under corporate business. With those changes, we recommend, and I would move that we approve these changes, just under Section 1.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the changes of the resolution under Section 1. Do I hear a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
Under Section 2, Energy and Agronomy, the issue with technical neutral energy policies, we would just like to add the wording of including liquid fuels. And under Renewable Fuel Standard, we would like to add CHS urges Congress to act to provide long-term certainty regarding the RFS. For Section 2, I would like to make a motion that we accept these changes.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the changes to resolution and the changes to resolutions in Section 2. Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
For Section 3, Cooperative Business, we have a change, or recommended change on Section 199A, Domestic Production Activities, Deduction DPAD. The committee suggests that we change language to say CHS supports the Section 199A DPAD in the Internal Revenue Code. CHS urges the U.S. Treasury Department to withdraw its current regulations disallowing non-patronage activity from a cooperative's calculation of its DPAD deduction and implement regulations faithful to the language and intent of the 2018 amendments to Section 199AG which were to replicate as closely as possible former Section 199 for farmer cooperatives and their farmer patrons. Our second recommendation, as Jeff mentioned, was to move the Anti-Terrorism Resolution from grain and foods into cooperative business. We made a few word adjustments on that too to encompass, and the resolution now reads, the impact of anti-terrorism policies on agricultural commerce to deter terrorism and criminal activity against our food and water supply, energy infrastructure, supporting agriculture, and the ability of cooperatives to conduct business operations. CHS encourages federal and state agencies to work closely with agricultural interests in developing preventive controls and countermeasure procedures that meet the needs of agriculture and do not interrupt the flow of normal agricultural products. Mr. Vice Chair, I would make a motion that we accept these changes on the cooperative business section.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the resolution changes on the cooperative section, or section 3, I think. Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We recognize the long hours that go into this important work, and we sincerely appreciate your efforts. Please join me in thanking the Resolutions Committee members.
The next order of business is to vote on the proposed amendments to the CHS Articles of Incorporation and Bylaws. Each of the Articles of Incorporation and Bylaws, including the proposed amendments. In the annual meeting materials provided before and during this meeting, a copy is also included in your ballot packet. If you are missing a copy of the proposed amendments, please alert an usher. The proposed amendments are intended to clean up obsolete language in our articles and our bylaws and to confirm our ability to use an electronic voting process. They have been discussed over the past 2 years at our owners' forums and in our regional caucuses, as well as state and other regional update meetings. Our goal was to provide an ample opportunity for you to be informed about the amendments and ask questions and provide input. We will take this in 2 distinct votes, one on the resolution proposing amendments to the articles and one on the resolution proposing amendments to the bylaws. The CHS board recommends approval of these amendments, and you will have opportunity later for questions and discussion. We will begin by asking for a motion and a second on proposed amendments to the Articles of Incorporation, followed by discussion. When discussion is complete, we will take a written vote on this article's resolution. This will be immediately followed by a request for a motion and a second on the bylaws resolution and any discussion. Then we will proceed to a written vote on the bylaws resolution. Please note that there are 2 separate ballots in your packet. They are designated articles and bylaws. I'd like to remind you of Rule 7 governing CHS annual and special meetings. It states that no delegate or individual member shall speak more than twice on the same subject without permission of the chair, nor more than once until every delegate or individual member choosing to speak on the subject pending shall have spoken. Nor shall any delegate or individual member occupy more than 5 minutes at the first time, nor more than 3 at the second without permission of the chair. Any delegate or individual member choosing to speak must identify themselves after being recognized from the chair. Is there a motion to adopt the first resolution, amendments to the CHS Articles of Incorporation? I have a motion. Is there a second? I have a second. Any discussion? Any discussion? Well, hearing none, I will call for a vote by written ballot. Please remove the designated ballot for voting on the articles from your packet. This is the green ballot. Please do not use any other ballot, as it will not be counted as a valid vote. You must use your own ballot. Use a pencil in your packet or a black or blue ink to fill in your vote. Please turn your ballot upside down and pass it to the person on your right. Ushers will collect the ballots at the end of the row. We will report the results of the vote on the amendments to the articles before we adjourn this meeting. We will now move to consideration of the proposed changes to the bylaws. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution on amendments to the CHS bylaws? Do I have a motion? I have a motion. Is there a second? I have a second. Thank you. Any discussion? Discussion? All right, seeing none, we will call for another vote by written ballot. Please remove the designated ballot for voting on the bylaws from your packet. This is the blue ballot. Please do not use any other ballot, as it will not be counted as a valid vote. You must use your own ballot. Use a pencil in your packet, blue or black ink, to fill out the ballot. Please turn your ballot upside down, pass it to the person on your right, and ushers will collect the ballots at the end of the row. We will report the results of the vote on the amendments to the bylaws before we adjourn the meeting today. Thank you for that process. On behalf of the CHS Board, thank you for your participation in one of the most important rights of a cooperative member, the right to have a voice in the governance of this system.
I'm Riley Buss, and I manage a team of data scientists and engineers at CHS. Over the past few years, our IT and global grain and processing teams have been working together to connect data to increase efficiencies across the supply chain to better serve our owners. When grain leaves the farm, it enters a global supply chain. At CHS, we are visualizing every step of that supply chain to understand where grain comes from, how it can fit our customer needs, where it needs to go, and how it will get there. At each point along the supply chain, data is generated. Our challenge is to connect the data from one step to another, which helps anticipate issues, manage real-time information, and take advantage of opportunities. For example, if we see a huge snowstorm and sub-zero temperatures across North Dakota, we know that trains won't likely meet delivery deadlines to load a vessel in Kalama, Washington. That means we'll need to work with our customer in China on the revised delivery date or source that grain elsewhere. In addition to providing real-time data to improve decision-making, digital tools also help make our team spend less time making phone calls and searching through orders, which means they can spend more of their time meeting our customer needs. An integrated digital supply chain allows us to connect producers to global markets. Technology has filled the gaps, allowing us to understand every part of the process. The end result is more accurate forecasting, proactively responding to market opportunities, and efficiently finding valuable opportunities for our owners' crops.
Our next order of business is to announce the results of the director elections from this morning's caucuses. Elected from Region 1, Minnesota, was David Johnsruth. Elected from Region 3, North Dakota, was Steve Friddle. Elected from Region 4, South Dakota, was David Kaiser. Elected from Region 6, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Utah, Arizona, California, Hawaii, Nevada, and Alaska was Russ Kale. Elected from Region 8, Colorado, Nebraska, Kansas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas was David Beckman. Would the newly elected directors please rise so we can congratulate you? We are now at the point in the agenda where new business would be in order. We are not aware of any items that would qualify.
Mr. Chairman, this would not be in the category of new business, but it is important business for us. We have a retirement at CHS for somebody that is unknown to maybe many of you, but is a person that brings this all together and makes this event happening. Linda Tank, who I'm going to ask to come out and join us on stage, has for the last 38 years helped put this thing together. And she and her team do so much work behind the scenes that make the work of Dan and myself and everybody else just look easy. And I wanted to take a moment in front of all of you and for all the people that are watching on the web to consciously and very sincerely thank you for all your work for 38 years, putting this meeting and other meetings and C Magazine and the things on the web and the social media and all those steps that you see. Linda and the people that she works with put that together. And I wanted to take a moment, Mr. Chairman, to recognize Linda and thank you for everything you've done, and to thank your family, Myron, and your children, Charlie and Greta, for all that they have done to help this company. Thank you.
Next on our agenda is the member interaction session. It's an important time for all of us to learn what's on your minds, whether you're joining here in the audience or you're online. Members of the Strategic Leadership Team, if you would please join me on stage.
Good to see them all back. And after a year of absence for our question and answer period, it's nice to be here and it's nice to be with you and engage in this part of our meeting. So just a couple of things before we get started. This is a time when we'll take questions from people that are here in person as well as those that are online and watching us through the marvels of technology. Some way you can get questions into us, and you can do it by texting, you can do it by the microphones that are on the floor, and emailing, and probably some other ways that I don't even know. But you will see it on your screen from ways to do that, and through the magic of technology, somebody will walk out and hand them to us. And then we'll do our best. If we don't get to them all, we will do our best to track the people down that ask the questions and follow up with you. So I would just want you to know we'll do our best on all those fronts. Let me begin by just introducing quickly the people on the stage that are with me. Most of you know some of them, but we have some new faces too. So of course you know the chairman, Mary Call Hottinger, is our Chief Human Resource Officer for the company. Darren Hunhoff leads energy for us. Gary Halverson has a very important job for us around customer development and enterprise customer development. And you'll hear me talk a little bit about that in my remarks a little later. Brandon Smith is a newer addition to the team, started with the company in March. Brandon is our general counsel for the company, also oversees some other areas around compliance and government affairs as well. Of course, you saw Olivia earlier in the day. John Griffith, who heads up our ag business and CHS hedging platforms. Rick Dusick heads up country operations, our retail platform. And David Black, our Chief Information Officer, as well as providing the leadership role around transformation work that we've got going across the company, a hugely important body of work for us. So that's the cast of characters that I'm going to use to try to help as we go through the morning. So with that, do we have a question from the floor? I do not see anybody at the mics, so we'll see what has come on the World Wide Web. Thank you. I'll take this one because I can answer it pretty fast and pretty easy. Is patronage earned from CFN, which Olivia showed what CFN earnings were up on the screen. Is patronage earned from CFN? The answer is yes. For those that buy from CHS, yes. Darren, we got a refined fuels customer that's got a question for you. We are constantly out of fuel at our terminal in Grand Forks. Just to be clear, we don't read just the friendly questions. We read them the way they're written. We are constantly out of fuel at our terminal in Grand Forks. We have purchased and are making upgrades to the tanks and pipeline at the former military base there also. When will we start to see the benefits of that asset so that we may consistently see product there? Some of this information in terms of the work going on that terminal we bought, maybe you have at your fingertips, maybe you don't. But what can you say on that front, please?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jay, and thank you for the question. No question, just for some quick backdrop, Grand Forks logistically can be a challenging place to really, particularly during high demand seasons, keep fuel in. It's a terminal that's, as I call it, end of the line. If you think about a pipeline that starts in, honestly, in the middle of Kansas and makes its way all the way up to Grand Forks, North Dakota, it's the last terminal, the last stop on that line. So our ability to forecast and move products in there is quite challenging, as you can imagine when you think about that distance. Fargo, just south of there, is more of a hub terminal, and so often when Grand Forks has their outages, we work really hard to keep Fargo full. What are we doing about it to make it better? As the question referenced and Jay referenced, we are making some investments to improve our performance there and be more reliable at that Grand Forks terminal. There's a former military facility that has significant storage and a pipeline that was out of service for many years that we purchased a bit of time ago, and we've done the engineering and the scoping to bring that back into service. So we'll have additional storage and a piece of pipeline that goes right to the existing terminal so that we can better stage product, particularly ahead of a spring and ahead of a fall. Will it solve every problem? Of course not, but it should dramatically improve our performance. And Jay, I don't have the exact completion dates, but I know that work is underway, and I think we're expecting to have those in service in spring. Whether we'll have it in time to move a lot of product over there for spring, we'll see how the construction goes.
All right. Thank you, Darren. Checking the mics. A question, please address the funding issues challenging the retirement of equity patronage accounts. So I think the chairman and Olivia both referred to this in their remarks yesterday and today in terms of the factors that go into ultimately the board's decision of how much cash gets sent out to the country. But Olivia, maybe I could just ask you to think about this question and how might you respond?
Sure. Well, thank you for the question. And first of all, let me start by saying I understand where the question's coming from. I know we want to be able to pay cash out. I think what Jay's referring to is our commitment to making sure that we live within our means. So we look at our cash flow available every year. We look at, again, what's in the best interests of CHS and our members, and really making sure that we can maintain that strong balance sheet and maintain a commitment to long-term growth as well. So we'll look at that every year. We'll continue to do so, and we understand the need for cash, and we'll do our best to meet that need.
Mr. Chairman, anything more? Okay.
I think that covers it pretty well.
Okay, good. Question, what are the CHS plans to reduce our carbon footprint? So I'm going to ask David to help on this question, because as part of his responsibilities, he's really providing leadership around sustainability for us. But let me just say from my chair, this company has got to lean in on this issue. I don't think it's a winning hand to push back, to delay, to defer. This is an area that the world, the country is moving on. The pace of that is a question, and all the impacts a question. But we need to lean in. We need to be at the table as the country and the world does move forward. And what impacts does that have on us as CHS? And frankly, what opportunities does that give us as agriculture? And I think that's the mindset that CHS needs to have, is also thinking about the opportunities that could come from this as well. But David, could you specifically think and talk a little bit to the plans that we have around that we can talk about today?
Yeah, absolutely. Boy, this question of carbon and sustainability is on all of our minds today, isn't it? Yeah, from a CHS perspective, I'd say we really think about it two ways. One, within our own operations, what can we do to become more sustainable? And then secondly, what can we do to help our owners as they go through this sustainability journey? And I think that on the owner side, it really is even focused today near term on greenhouse gas and sequestering carbon. So I'll say you may have seen within the last couple of days, we released our very first sustainability report at CHS. It's a sustainability report, so I can't give you a printed copy. We released this online, so I'd encourage you to take a look at chsinc.com and find that link to our brand new sustainability report. In it, I think you'll see a number of things, specific actions that we've already taken around sustainability. Things from just reducing our carbon footprint in our supply chains and across manufacturing, all the way to just operating leaner, greener data centers. So I'd encourage you to look there for more details on what we're doing today. You probably also recently saw that in cooperation with Bayer, we announced a carbon sequestration program for farmers, and one in which you can receive a premium when you're using CHS branded products along with that program. So I think those are just examples of how we've started our journey. And I will say it's a journey. Like all of you, we're looking to the future and what does sustainability mean and how do we continue to define it and what's the expectations around sustainability. So it's very much a topic I look forward to speaking to all of you at future annual meetings as well.
Thank you, David. John, I'm going to look to you for this one. It has to do with the recently passed infrastructure bill. The question is, how will we utilize any of the recent $1.2 billion infrastructure bill recently approved by the Biden administration with the Congress that the president signed? So I think specifically we'd say we as a company maybe aren't utilizing it, but the industries we operate, and I'm calling on you because I think some of the funding sources from this bill that are dedicated towards water are really important for us, and things that we've been asking for I'll start with a decade and probably go further than that.
Yeah, thanks, Jay, and thanks for the question. The inland waterway system in the United States, specifically the Mississippi River system, is critically important to the efficient delivery of commodities around the world and the procurement of commodities that back up that river. And we use that system greatly in our business. We're active members of the Waterways Council, and as Jay said, been advocating for the modernization of the lock and dam systems to increase those capacities for many, many years. And this new bill and those funds, some of those funds will be directed to the modernization of that waterway system specifically, and will be important improvements for the next 50 years.
And I guess we'd also point out part of that bill included broadband enhancements, which I think are good for rural America and needed. So there's some aspects that we really are happy about and see how it improves both our business and the people who own us and the communities in which you live. A question, has the portion of patronage for each commodity been released? I would guess this has to do, Olivia showed some of the patronage rates, and I'm going to take it that it meant has it really been paid. It has not been paid yet. It gets, as I think Olivia quickly said, we plan to pay that in the spring of 2022, which is a standard timing for the company. That's when we pay patronage. So if has been released, has been paid, not yet. But spring is the time we typically do that. Olivia, one, I'm going to ask you to weigh. The phrase cash optimization has been used in the context of equity management. Can you explain what change this represents and means specifically in the context of equity redemption? So we have thought often about cash and living within our means and so forth, and I think maybe the words cash optimization do get used, but again, just how do we think about that with equity redemption?
Yeah, so when we talk about cash optimization, we're not specifically thinking about equity redemption in that, although we do want to maximize the amount of cash available in our system through our operations. So when we talk about cash optimization, what we did last year is we really focused on our cash conversion cycle to generate as much cash in our system as we could by better inventory management, managing our receivables to get them in as quickly as we could and make sure we didn't have any bad debt or we didn't let receivables age, and being very optimal in how we made payments as well. And so that increases the amount of cash in our system, which then allows us to borrow less on our revolver and pay less interest and increase our earnings. So that's a focus that we had last year. It's a focus we'll have for the foreseeable future as well. Thanks for the question.
Doing better with that which we have.
Yes.
Doing better with that which we have. Yes. Mary, a really timely question that I don't know of a business that isn't talking about this topic today. The question is, how has COVID-19 impacted your business, particularly talent practices? What is on the horizon for additional changes? So I think this, just a very timely question. The people that I talk to, CEOs at other companies, this talent issue and what's going on right now is just common to, well, I don't know of anybody that's not talking about it as really item one. Both, as they talk to their boards of directors, as they talk about it as a management team, as we talk about it with our staffs. This talent issue and the dynamics that are in play right now are really something. How would you kind of offer up on this in terms of how we think about this right now?
Yeah, absolutely. And after 35 years of doing human resources, probably the toughest time that I've ever seen around talent. I think specifically they said COVID to start with. Is that right?
Yes, it did.
Our COVID talent practices. Generally speaking, we are still doing the same things from a talent acquisition standpoint and how we're retaining our talent. So the practices have generally stayed the same, but our focus is heavy on safety. And we started this journey back in March of 2020, putting together groups of folks helping us manage through this time period. We have steering committees and operating groups of folks helping give us insight into what to do, with our primary focus on two things: keeping our employees safe and having minimal disruption to our business. That continues to be the focus, and that will continue to be the focus as we go forward. We know that we're in a period of time right now where we're waiting to hear more from the government on what we might need to do around mandates, and we have chosen not to mandate a vaccine, and that's been our approach the entire time. That will continue to be our approach at this point in time, but we're still in a wait-and-see mode from a COVID-19 standpoint on what might happen with that. We're preparing as best we can in the event that we get an answer on what we need to do, and we'll be ready to go when that time comes. And that would mean that we'd have to allow for testing if that's the way that the regulation goes. And Brandon can say more, but we're still in a wait-and-see mode from a COVID standpoint. That's just one element of the talent practices that have been tough in the past couple of years. There's a lot of other things going on from a shortage, as all of you know, that the labor shortage is real, and we are feeling it too. We're feeling some of the turnover impact, so we have been moderately seeing an increase in our turnover when we compared our fiscal year 21 turnover to what we do is go back to 19, which was more of a normal year. We did have a bit of an uptick, not significant, but still a bit of an uptick, and we're watching it going forward. Fiscal year 22 has started out a little bit higher than we like to see. So the things that we're doing for sure is looking at how we acquire talent and our talent acquisition team and what they can do to do a better job to bring talent in. Things like, take a look at our career site. We changed it this year, so we've got a much more compelling story about CHS out there and easier navigation so candidates can find the opportunities that we have. One of the areas where we are seeing turnover is country operations. So we've put in place a new way to deliver recruiting services to our country operations group so that we can hire talent faster. We've reduced the time to hire, Rick, by about half of what it was from last year. So closer to that 60, 70-day range down to about a 35-day range. So we put in place some practices there that are helping. We're also holding our vendors accountable. Those people that put our jobs out and post for us on our behalf, we're holding them accountable for bringing us candidates and watching the metrics around all of that. And then we're just making sure we have the right people, the right staff to do this, people that love this work and love what we do that can help make sure that we're bringing that right talent on board. So from an acquisition standpoint, we're doing that, but we know we can't only just bring them in the front door, we got to shut the back door too. So we've got to hold on to this great talent that we have here at CHS. And so we're working on a number of different things to do that as well. Engagement surveys, listening to our employees and hearing from them, putting in place a career framework that allows employees to better understand their careers and where they can go within our organization. We're working on making sure our environment is one that everyone feels comfortable and valuable and can bring their best selves to work. And then we have great learning and development that we provide to our employees, some from internally, so we have a staff of folks that provide training, but we also recently joined partnership with LinkedIn Learning so that we can bring learning out to folks that might not be sttting in a headquarters or at a desk every day as well. So there's a lot going on. Like I said, toughest in my 35 years for sure, but know that we're on it and that we have an HR team dedicated that loves what they do, loves who they do it for, and want to bring the right talent here and the world's best talent to CHS.
And it's fair to say every company is doing exactly those things. I mean, that's why it's hard. That's what we're facing. Yeah. And that's what we're facing because everybody's working hard on this front. So this is a handwritten, and I don't really need these glasses, but I'll put them on here just to read this. CHS equity retirement is a concern at the local co-op. Is management incentivized to get money back to the owners in the country? Has CHS considering hiring an audit firm to help develop a plan to retire equity at a faster pace? Mr. Chairman, I'll ask you to offer, but a couple of things that I would hit right up the front. So management is not incentivized to get money back to the owners in the country. That is not part of the management incentive program. We are incented to earn money and earn performance. From that, the board ultimately makes decisions, how much gets put in capital expenditures, how much gets used to run the company, and how much gets sent out to the country. So that's how I would answer that particular point. Have we considered hiring an audit firm to help develop a plan to retire equity at a faster pace? And I think you spoke a little bit that we are using, and the board is using some outside resources, but if you might want to offer anything.
On the first part of the question, no, I think Jay's correct. We do not directly incent for that, but there is an expectation for all of our employees to operate under our values. And part of that is integrity and doing the right thing. So I think that's an expectation every one of them have. On the other side, we did hire a firm to come in and help us with equity management and help look at the challenges that we believe are there, working with management on some scenarios and some ideas that we can come out of there, identifying, and we've identified a few ideas and levers that possibly we can pull. And as I said earlier, we're planning on bringing that to you, sharing with you the challenges that we see with our equity program. And all of us have those challenges, so that's not something you don't share with us. But sharing those challenges with you, giving you some thoughts and ideas that we may have, and then listening and trying to get some feedback from you with the idea of coming to you with some future plans, some strategic looks at how we will go with equity in the future.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Gary, I'd ask you to help with this one. With our recent partnership with Bayer on our carbon sequestration program, how and when will we begin rolling that out? So we recently announced, Gary, a partnership with Bayer just around allowing and helping farmers that own us be able to participate in the profitability that can come from farming practices that go towards sustainability efforts. Maybe what you could say on how and when we'll begin rolling that out.
Thank you for the question. I think we've all seen just a tremendous uptick in the carbon issue, and agriculture is is the proposed solve. And there's two cultural practices that are proposed to help us sequester carbon dioxide in the soil. The first is no-till, and the second one is a cover crop. And so those are the two activities that are embedded in the program that we share with Bayer, and that's how the grower gets rewarded. We've launched an initial rollout just to country ops for now. We're going to bring an affiliate version after the first of the year and begin enrolling there. We like the Bayer program. It gives us a toe in the water, if you will, a first step in the carbon program. We're waiting for the carbon markets to develop further and quite frankly to see increased payments that maybe in all geographies justify the activity, but it's a way for CHS to provide some measure of leadership and in partnership with Bayer, whom we have a very good relationship. So it's our start in carbon, and I would say on behalf of where we stand, it's not at all a final product in regard to the carbon markets and how that mechanism works and rewards farmers for the activity, but it's a start for us, Jay.
Thank you, Gary. A question: years back, CHS issued stock that pays 8%. It is our preferred stock for those that are familiar. You have an option to buy this back at a preset price in the near future. Can you comment on which direction you might go on this issue? The answer is no. We cannot give any direction, and that's not because we're trying to avoid the question. Is we cannot send a signal in any way, shape, or form until the board has decided what they want to do, and we do it in a fair and objective way when we are ready to communicate it. So the board will, Dan will be looking at that at some point in the future, and I think that's as far as we can say. That's right. Brendan, anything that you would say in addition?
I think you summarized it quite well, Jay, and just to answer the question, maybe a follow-up to that, how would we communicate it out to anyone who is an owner of those preferred shares, as well as to the general market? We would communicate very broadly what the terms of the repurchase would be and when the timing would take place. So rest assured, there would be plenty of adequate notice well in advance. I think 30 days is the minimum amount of notice, and we would be likely well beyond that.
Thank you, Brendan. Check the mics. No mics. Why was there, Olivia, why was there no patronage on fuels LP this year? Because you obviously didn't show it on there, so if you'd answer that one.
Yeah, I didn't show it because we made a loss, and as a result, there was just no patronage on it this year, unfortunately.
And we have to have earnings in order to have patronage, and fuels did not have it. For the reasons that we talked about, particularly in that front half of the year, but the back half of the year came back strong, but not enough to cross the line. John, I think this applies to other areas of CHS, but I think your area really felt it in the forehead. And the question is, have the tariffs implemented several years ago impacted CHS performance positively or negatively? And I pick on you simply because I think the commodities that you work with either were hit with tariffs or felt the effect of retaliation for the tariffs that we had, and how would you think about that impact on us, positive or negative?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Clearly when that was all happening, the trade war with China, it was a very negative impact to the trade flows and to our abilities to, source markets to raise prices and have access to key markets like China. The Phase 1 agreement alleviated that and created incentives to open those markets back up. And over the last year and looking forward into this next year, we're quite optimistic about the continued open, free, and fair trade. China has been a really big buyer of corn this last year, Jay. That has really helped our markets. They bought 22 million metric tons of corn in the last season, which is 10 times the amount they bought in the previous year and 20 times more than they bought the previous 3 years to that. So that's really, really impactful. And so, having the Phase 1 agreement in place that USTR and CHS supported has really been a positive event, I think, and has helped the markets a great deal.
Thanks, John. David and Darren, if you have something to offer too, because it relates to, I think it likely relates to our transportation area. Are we reviewing opportunities to transition our own fleet assets and operations to more sustainable platforms, and when will those transitions start? So I think the question is really around the trucks and trailers we run up and down the road. Are we looking for ways that we can introduce more sustainable ways to do that? I can offer up that I know a few years ago, Darren, we introduced CNG into some of our trucks to kind of test that and see how that worked. And beyond that, new engine technology, I think, is leading the way. But what else could you might point to in terms of how we're thinking about this broad topic? We'll start with David.
How about I take the maybe longer term view and Darren help with near term. So we actually have a pilot that we're just starting to put in place around an autonomous truck. It'll be around our crush facilities in southern Minnesota. But the notion is a driverless vehicle following a driver vehicle. So it's a way that, number one, we can deal with sustainability to the question, but as well as you think about things like labor shortages and access to drivers. So it's an early day pilot, and it sort of speaks even to some of the innovation that we continue to do at CHS. But it's really exciting as you think about how does technology and things like an autonomous truck ultimately play in our future to be more sustainable across our supply chain.
Thanks, David. And I think what I would add in addition, that's exciting work that David and team are working on, and possibility of autonomous truck. Jay referenced, we have a history of watching these changes and using our own fleet to see what we could learn, and that's another example of that. I think what I would add, another way to be more responsible in that is really get sharp and better at how we utilize the assets we have. And we are working very hard on that, and for lots of reasons, sustainability is one of them. So optimizing our fleet, optimizing the drivers we had, stretching that further across other parts of the company is a significant part of this in the day-to-day as well, Jay.
Yeah, and there's two clear benefits. One is we operate more sustainably, more efficiently, and we do it at a lower cost. It's good.
No mics.
No mics. A question, how is CHS supporting or helping minority communities? So let me just hit three right off the top. One is our community giving that we do as a company, particularly around United Way. This company supports employee matches, and we match employee contributions towards United Way and specifically towards United Way efforts around minority communities and help that we can give. Second is we have employee volunteerism. We provide 2 paid days off for employees to volunteer in their communities, specifically at these needs that exist around communities. And 3 is through the CHS Foundation, where we can help when it fits the goals of the foundation, and we've got a board committee that oversees that, but that's also an important area. So we do lean in for those areas where we can. Are there any other questions that somebody has on a mic, or am I seeing? A
couple more coming.
Thank you. Mary, I'll just ask you to hit this one if you would. With the extreme truck driver challenges across our enterprise, especially in energy, what will we do differently in 2022 to keep hiring robust in this sector? So I know you've got some specific initiatives around drivers in place. Maybe you could just hit those.
And maybe Darren can add some more as well. So we have, just the way we're structured, are focusing very specifically on transportation so that we have specialists that do that type of recruiting. We're also working on putting in place some referral bonuses to make sure that we can have people help get us the talent as well, that will help bring that talent in. And I don't know if you have some more, Darren, you'd add.
I think I would quickly add 2 things. One, this isn't just a CHS problem. This is I'll use the word driver, almost epidemic across the whole industry in all sectors. I'm actually, Mary, fairly satisfied with where we're at kind of versus the industry. I see a lot of chaos there, but we've got to get that work done. I think the other thing I'd say, we're looking at some things specific to veterans. And we think this is an area that we could develop a program around recruiting specific to U.S. veterans that we think could really benefit the company and bring some great employees into our fleet. We've had some small successes with that in the past, and we've got a team, Mary, between us that's working to build on that and trying to put some new plays in the playbook on how we can attract the best people to be delivering for us.
And it's also an area we're working on some collaboration between energy and country operations when we can have drivers work between the two different businesses to help us if we need help filling in for the peaks that we might have as well. So it's a great opportunity for collaboration.
Question, David, I'm going to ask you to help because you along with Olivia and Brandon and Gary were leaders for us on the venture that we announced 2 weeks ago with Growmark. The question is, how do you see the venture with Growmark benefiting CHS members? Do you expect it to generate revenues that surpass our investment? Before I ask David to lead through that answer, I just, from my chair, I think CHS needs to be at the table and needs to be leaning in on the technology advancements in agriculture where it fits us. A lot of the technology around agriculture has been focused on seed technology and tractors that's led by John Deere and Case IH and others, but there's a lot more technology coming out of agriculture. And I start with the aspect that I think this company needs to be at the table and needs to lean in on it when I think about the company 10 and 20 years from now. And there's a certain amount of risk that goes into the space. We've kept our appetite where we think it can be and have alignment from the board of directors about what we are doing on this front. And we think partnering with Growmark was just an absolutely great way of diversifying that risk and bringing Growmark strengths to the table to help us do this as well. And I think the management team and board over at Growmark say that take the same view. But David, how would you kind of talk about how it ultimately could benefit our members, and do we think about this that generate revenues to surpass our investment, or how we think about that?
Yeah, so first, when we the questions, how does it benefit our members, how does it benefit us? I really think about us as all of us. I think about cooperative ventures will benefit the co-op system. It will benefit local cooperatives. It will benefit growers. And here's why. What Cooperative Ventures aims to do is really, get visibility to innovation and technology that's going on in agriculture. For us to get an early view on what's happening around this innovation and this technology. And I think along with Growmark, because of our scale, we not only then have the ability to get that early view, we have the ability to bring that view, bring that technology out to the farm and test it. To test it on broad acres, to make sure technology works regionally, locally, can scale. So I think that there's something really different about what Cooperative Ventures can bring to that benefits our members, really in terms of getting that technology on the farm. In terms of benefits, when we think about Cooperative Ventures, this new joint venture with Growmark, there are really three areas that we're going to focus on. One is crop production, trying to bring better and improved technology to crop production. The second is across our supply chain, improvements in supply chain. And then the third, a topic that's already been discussed here this morning, is sustainability. So those are the three areas by which we'll really look to bring innovation. Now, through Cooperative Ventures, that also allows us to understand the issues and challenges our members have and align the technology to solving real problems, which honestly is the focus. Not that we don't want to see a return from investments we make. We absolutely look for a financial return in any investment we make. But we start first with solving real problems that members are looking to have solved and applying technology. So that's our first measure of success. And then the second measure of success is a financial return we get against these investments.
And Olivia, I could say, you'll have tight controls around investments and how we make them, and she's running the checkbook on the deal. So we'll have tight controls on that.
Absolutely. We've committed $25 million, but that's over a 10-year period. And if you think about how much we spend on capital expenditure every year, we've just taken a small portion of that and putting towards cutting-edge ag tech for the future. And there is going to be a governance structure to make sure we have oversight and financial rigor before we make any of these investments. So we're very excited about the opportunities this is going to bring for our members.
But we have our eyes wide open. There's risk to it. We understand that. It is business. Yeah. So we haven't lost sight of that. All right, Mr. Chairman, I've not seen anybody at the microphones, and I have gone through the questions that I think we can cover here. Just one last chance for a question. The question is, what is CHS doing today to combat the RFS that would positively affect your energy business segment? So I think, Darren, this is going into the tricky area of RINs, I think, because Olivia and Darren, I think, have both spoken in different settings about the impact on RIN costs on our energy performance that are driven really by the RFS. This is a topic that gets big and gets wide in a hurry. So I think, Darren, I'll just ask you to do what you can from the stage, but then if you could be available here for anybody. If the question came from inside, we'll do our best kind of one-on-one, and if it came outside, we'll do our best to follow up. But if you could do what you could from the stage on this.
Sure. What I'll try and do quickly, number one, when the question referenced combating the RFS, I want to start there. CHS supports the RFS. We support renewable fuels. We've been doing that, as you've heard from Jay, for a long, long time. I think so we don't come at it as, let's get rid of the RFS and that it's a bad thing. We don't do that. What we are working on and what really concerns us is the way the RFS is being deployed, and specifically the Renewable Identification Number system that is essentially the compliance mechanism to the RFS. So what are we doing to kind of manage what today are negative effects to our P&L on that? Two kind of big things. First is we are working within our business to try and blend more and lower barriers to blending more. And we've made significant efforts during fiscal year 21 to make E15 more widely available. We now have more than 20 fuel terminals where you can go pick up E15 the same way as you do number 2 diesel or unleaded gasoline. And we believe we're an industry leader in that respect with the work we've done in 21. So that if you, as a Cenex branded owner, store owner, want to market that product, we can make it easy for you. Because if we blend more, that's what the RFS is designed to do. Second, with the help of a government affairs team that my colleague Brandon leads, is really advocating and trying to influence the future of the RFS and really advocate for two things. One, clarity and certainty about what we're asked to do under the regulation. If we could ask for one thing by noon today, it would be to tell us exactly how much we should blend by when, and we'll go do that. We don't know that today. We're in December, and I don't yet know how much we were supposed to blend in 2021. Our analysts have to estimate that and manage the risk around it that way. So we ask for certainty, and then, Brandon, we work on, we think there's a better way to administrate the RFS. We think there's a simpler way to do it. But we don't come at it as we think the RFS should go away, Jay.
All right. With that, Mr. Chairman, we'll bring this session, this part of the session to a close. We've got a few more things to cover, but with that, thank you for my colleagues for joining us, and we'll continue the meeting. And I want to start with just thanking all of you for your open and candid dialogue. You saw we read the questions just the way they come in to us. The feedback is really important to us as we transform and as we operate and as we grow the company. I also want to take this opportunity from my chair to thank you for your business. Thank you for your support. Know that we are working hard to earn the business and to earn more of it. I last stood on this stage in 2019, right about here, and sat there. And I remember telling everyone that tough times never last, but tough people do. We had harsh weather, we had global trade disruptions. It was not an easy time. Yet here we are 2 years later, and with your help, we've grown the company, and we continue to grow the company with one goal in mind, and that's to benefit the people that own us. You heard from Olivia earlier that fiscal year 2021 was a strong year. Strong global demand provided the tailwind, but the work we're doing at the foundation of CHS and building that out is taking hold. Growth is at the center of that foundation. And it can be thought of in a lot of different ways. Let me tell you a little bit how I think about it. Growth at CHS is how we can drive more value for the people that own us, which allows us to invest in our business, invest in our people, and return more cash back to you. The spaces that CHS operates in provides great opportunities to do exactly that. And the growth is not about being the largest. It is about growing strategically, where we can leverage our strengths, where we have an ability to win, and in ways we can sustain. And leveraging our strength is important when it comes to growth. I can tell you that the strength of our diversified portfolio sets us apart. No one else has the dynamic product lines and the reach of CHS. Product lines that are targeted at planting the acre, at servicing and growing the acre, and at marketing the crop when it comes off. This provides us with opportunities to create efficiencies that get us to the next level in the customer experience. To do that, we're connecting our customer-facing teams across the company to work together and help our cooperative and farmer owners grow. We've asked Gary Halverson, who was sitting up here just a minute ago, to lead a new area of customer development for CHS, an area where we're going to bring the sales and marketing functions across the company in a much more organized way and be much more strategic on how we approach our customers, learn from our customers, and bring the aspects of CHS to you in a much more strategic way than we've done in the past. You should expect this from us, linking your strategies and helping you grow. In other words, creating connections. So what are we doing to leverage our strength and grow the company? It starts by making strategic investments that drive better alignment and efficiencies across the company, ultimately leading to increased earnings. We're growing to better connect our customers around the world with the local cooperatives and the producers who own us. We are growing for the future by making smart investments in technologies that create those efficiencies through our vast network, making us a better company and making it easier for you to do business with us. And finally, in growing our people, deeper in perspective, deeper in experience, and more diverse. I'm more confident than ever that we are growing together to create connections to empower agriculture. As Olivia noted, we've done a lot of work to strengthen our balance sheet and strengthen our performance, and we've been successful. We have more growth capital to work with. In fact, we have more growth capital in the hands of those business leads you just saw here than we've had since 2014. We are putting money to work for you, investing in our strategic assets, the assets we can grow with. We're investing in infrastructure, and we see great opportunities to grow our export-import infrastructure. By making these investments, we can grow markets in Vietnam, in Thailand, in Indonesia. You know, China's always going to be a huge market for the U.S. farmer. But we must work on developing additional markets as well. These investments also will lead to significant efficiency increases in our supply chain. In Galveston, Texas, at our deep water import facility where we bring fertilizer in, work is underway to dredge the berth and update the operation, enabling us to receive larger vessels and significantly speed up the time it takes to get fertilizer from the ship to the applicator and to the farmer. At our grain export terminal in Myrtle Grove, Louisiana, we have begun a $73 million expansion project that allows us to move another 75 million bushels at greater speed and with fewer bottlenecks. That means lower cost. These capital projects are right in line with our strategy to expand market access for our owners and evolve our business to make CHS our customers' first choice. I want to speak about supply chain investments for just a moment. For most people, for most of us, supply chains are one of those areas you don't spend much time thinking about until the experience turns into what we're seeing today, and it seems like it's the only thing that you're spending time thinking about. CHS has been investing in an integrated agronomy supply chain that provides best-in-class solutions for cooperatives and for retailers, streamlining the process to make it easier for you to do business with us and bringing more value to you. Our investment in nitrogen production, which you saw earlier on Olivia's slide, sets us apart from traditional wholesalers and helps us compete with vertically integrated suppliers. 1.7 million tons of urea and UAN come from our equity investment in CF Nitrogen, which helps us deliver for our customers regardless of market conditions. And when there is strong profitability in manufacturing, to return some of that profitability to the people who buy from us. And we continue to grow in our vertical integration capabilities. Our agronomy business is now marketing fertilizer produced at our McPherson, Kansas petroleum refinery. Say that one more time. Our agronomy area is marketing fertilizer produced at the petroleum refinery. It's ammonium thiosulfate, ATS, a value-added fertilizer for growing healthy and profitable crops. Marketing ATS as a CHS product provides cooperatives and retailers with that dependable supply. We always produced it. We always did. Now we market it ourselves too. To have growth advancements, you need capital investment. But those investments, they have to be smart, they have to be strategic. Technology advancements specific to agriculture will play a significant role in the future of our industry. As David just mentioned a little bit ago, 2 weeks ago, we announced a partnership between CHS and Growmark to form cooperative ventures. The venture will be aimed at tech startups focused on driving innovation specific to agriculture. I'm excited at the thought of CHS and Growmark partnering and leveraging the expansive networks of both cooperative systems. With our combined resources and scale, the invested capital will focus on those three areas that David mentioned: crop production, supply chain, and sustainability. The combined cooperative markets between CHS and Growmark cover millions of acres and thousands of farmers, creating an industry-leading test field, as it were, for developing new cutting-edge technology across agribusiness segments. With that advantage, we really believe we should get the first look at the very best technology. And it shows that cooperatives can cooperate. Cooperatives can cooperate. We're also growing sustainably. We have recently announced the carbon program that Gary spoke to with a partnership with Bayer to help offer growers and ranchers the ability to participate in carbon-smart practices. The program allows farmers to work with their agronomist at a local CHS location to access and to use the latest tools to ensure sustainability and profitability, and we'll be rolling this out to local cooperatives in the next year. With core capabilities in energy, in agronomy, global grain marketing, and processing, along with the services that go around all those four main businesses, we are uniquely positioned to provide farmers with solutions that drive sustainable outcomes, growth for CHS, and value for our owners. I want to spend just a few minutes talking about the future of energy, because energy will play a significant role, as it has, in how we are planning, how we invest, and how we're looking to grow your company going forward. And there are things that we know today, and there's things that we don't know today. Changes will continue to be driven by policies focused on reducing carbon, changing the type of energy sources consumers need. And CHS is preparing for a world with versatile energy solutions. We're planning for growth in electric vehicles and renewable fuels. We see a lot of opportunities for CHS as these market forces change, but they will only be opportunities if we adapt to the circumstances we have, as we have in the past. When I started with CHS 38 years ago, you all used about 75% more energy to put in an acre of ground and take it off. You're using today a fraction of what you used when I started. And yet our sales at this company of those products have never been higher than they are today. Our market share has never been greater than it is today. And the reason why is local cooperatives who own us and us adapted to that reality, found new customers, and worked with the circumstances that we had, not that we used to have. And that's the approach we need to have. Those efficiency gains, they came from advancements in engines, in better fuel, and better farming practices. And I think we'll see that going forward. When we adapt, ladies and gentlemen, we can thrive. We have a terrific team of leaders under Darren's leadership guiding the CHS energy business through whatever changes comes our way. We've developed scenarios based on electric vehicles and renewable fuels adoption, a scenario playbook, as it were, on what could happen, which creates clarity for our choices we will make in the future. And I can tell you that diesel, which is our bread and butter, as you all know, is quite resilient in whatever changes come that way. We're also actively involved in the debate around renewable diesel and its role in reducing the country's carbon footprint. We know that there are very real implications for agriculture with greater adoption of renewable diesel. If we see rapid expansion in this space, and we are right now, we will see additional pressure to process soybeans into soy oil, which is the main ingredient for renewable diesel, soy oil. That'll lead to expansion in crushing, and this expansion would lead to a lot more soybean meal. And it also impacts the buyers of soybeans from around the world. This can be really positive for agriculture, but it can mean for a lot of change. And we have to remember, it hinges on today's government policies. We started implementing our growth plans for these expanded soy oil markets 2 years ago, when the board of directors authorized an expansion to our Fairmont, Minnesota crushing plant. We put $100 million into Fairmont to increase our soybean crush capacity by 30%. That expansion just came up this fall. We've also begun a further investment of over $60 million into our soybean refinery expansion at Mankato, Minnesota, driven by this strong global soybean oil demand. It will help us capitalize on changing market dynamics and opportunities that will expand market access. Our soybean oil production will increase by more than 35% once that project is done in the summer of 2023. The bottom line is we will be processing more of our farmers' soybeans into value-added products, which are in high demand for our global customers. The growth is there, and we will capitalize on it. We also have the opportunity to serve rural America with many versatile energy solutions, meeting your needs and growing this company. We cannot continue to drive growth without investing in our workforce. And what business today is not focused on talent? We'll continue to invest in developing and attracting the very best talent, ensuring we have the right people with the right capabilities in the right places and the right roles for the future. And I'll leave you with one final thought. The U.S. farmer can compete with anyone around the world. It's because the U.S. farmer knows how to adapt and they know how to change. And they're tough and they're resilient. And so is this company. And so is this company. Together we'll create those connections. We've proven that we are tough enough. We've proven that we work hard enough not just to survive, but to thrive. The job of the U.S. farmer has never been more important. We are feeding the world. And that task, that noble task, is not going to get any less important. We will keep learning, we will keep improving, and we will keep growing together, creating connections to empower agriculture. This is our time. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jay. I'd like to announce the results of the vote on the resolutions for the adoption of the amendments to the CHS Articles of Incorporation. The vote was in favor of the amendment by 99% of the votes were in favor. The resolution has passed, and the CHS Articles of Incorporation will be amended as proposed. And the results of the CHS amendment to adoption, or the amendments to the CHS bylaws also passed in favor. 99% again were in favor of the adoption of the resolution. And again, the resolution will require us to change our bylaws as proposed. Well, this comes to the end of the meeting, and we certainly thank you for being a part of the CHS Annual Meeting. On behalf of the Board of Directors, our management team, all of our employees around the world, we thank you for your business, for your commitment, and for helping us guide this company into the future. I'll now call on a motion for the adjournment of the 24th Annual Meeting of CHS. I have a motion. Is there a second? I have a second. A motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Our meeting is adjourned. So before you leave, please join us for lunch. We'll go across the hall for lunch like we did this morning. We sure hope you join us. Also, I would encourage you, there's going to be a great video that will show after I leave, and I would encourage you to maybe stay and watch that video. It's really quite impressive. Have a happy holidays and have safe travels home. Thank you.